Well, hello. It's time to continue the build blog. So today we're gonna speak about some painting and a little bit about the cables. So that's the build, just to remind you. Uh, and this is the stuff from ICEMODZ that I had a bit of trouble getting through the customs, but wasn't that bad. Um, so there's several different parts here, and we're going to go through them respectively. So you start off with normal cable. That's this. This is your standard electrical cable that goes into the PCIe extenders and the motherboard and everything. You basically use this for everything except for the fans. For the fans we have some 4 pins. This is for the PWM fans. And then we have some for the 3 pin. So that's your 3 pin. Very nice feel to this. And they are actually pretty sturdy, but still at the same time you can bend them pretty easily. So I've done wiring in my house and the cable used there is a lot worse to work with, so I really enjoy this. Then we have the pins that come on the end of things. These are like all of the metal pins. We have quite a few of them. Then for the crimping, we're using I guess this is MDPC actually. Yeah, it is. So this is the MDPC crimping tool. Let's see if the camera can get this easily. So these are the ones you put on the end and you put like a lighter under it and they crimp around it and make a nice tight seal to make it good looking. Then for the actual cables, I mean, some people might find the color here a bit boring, but we're going to use black sleeve all throughout. And this is for a few reasons, but the main reason is that I want it to be in a sense that if you go and look at the work here, it looks fantastic, but I don't want to draw that much attention away from the wood and the parts used and so on, and all of the custom stuff we've done, including the loop and so on, and the reservoir. So I want just nice, perfect cabling. So going all black here makes a lot of sense in my mind. So this is the stuff for the fans, and then we have about 200 meters for all of the other cables, and the quality on this is just fantastic. I love this stuff. I played around with different sleeves and I've had like different quality power supplies for the longest time. I can tell you this is pretty much as good as it gets. So I'm very happy I went and used these. It's going to be fantastic to work with as well. Now, there's some tools I didn't have. I have pretty used to using these in work, but this is specifically designed for this type of work. So I went ahead and got myself one of these. The same thing I got, well, that was from ICEMODZ as well. And here's a power supply tester, just to make sure that we have all the parts we need. So there's your 24 pin, there's your SATA, there's a 6 and an 8 pin together with the fan. And that's your standard Molex hard drive thing. So this is probably going to be pretty useful. I mean, it's actually the first time I do all cabling custom, so it's going to be fun to work with actually. And I've been told that this takes a lot of time, depending on how busy you are with the result. Because I'm kind of a perfectionist, this is probably going to be very work intensive, but we have a lot of time, so that's going to be fine. Then we have all of the different connectors. So here's your fan connectors. Then we have the PCIe for the graphics cards. Well, actually, yeah, that's true. There's more fans. This is everything that goes into the motherboard. So that's all your ATX connectors. That's your, let's see, you might not see it that easily, but that's your 12 pin. Then you have your 4 pins, some 6 pins, 2, and there's a 24 pin. This is the one that goes into the motherboard socket. And you have your Molex ones. Now, you might be wondering, well, where's the SATA ones? But the SATA ones are actually coming. But the guy at ICEMODZ is actually doing those himself. I wasn't confident in doing those, so he'll be making those for me after I draw them out or tell him what kind of lengths I want. So huge shout out to ICEMODZ for helping me out with this build, and this is gonna look fantastic whilst it gets into that thing. Sorry for the light here. This is basically like what we use for lighting, so that's a 50 watt LED there. So in order to get a decent working environment, we have to use these lights. Here's one that's actually on. They are incredibly bright. So this is about 9,700 lumens, so quite a lot actually. Now let's go on to the paint. There was a bit of an accident here, so I'm sorry for that. Almost destroyed my mother's hardwood floor, but because I was there in Finland the last week getting these. But there's a lot of stuff in these, so it's perfectly fine. Just one of them leaked pretty badly. So this is the stain that we're using. So this is, you'll see more on this, but this is a more reddish color and this is a more dark brown. And when you mix these together in a certain combination, you're gonna get that mahogany feel out of the brush. So it's going to look pretty nice. We actually took a lot of tests with mixing these compounds together in a different manner to kind of get a feel for the end result. And so basically we're going to start off with staining like 2 or 3 times with a combination of these. Then we're moving on to the gloss or the varnish, and actually bought the wrong one. So this is a Hello 15 from Technos. This is going to be, there's no gloss in this stuff. This is just the varnish to protect the thing, but what we're using is this. This is a Hello 90, so this is gonna give you that mirror finish that you actually want. And in order to get the end result as good as required, we're going to have to spray these. And in order to spray them, you gotta thin them out. Well, actually, you probably want to thin them out at least the first layer a bit anyway. So just your standard paraffin stuff, the white spirit, and about 30% of this and 70% of the varnish is going to give you a pretty decent result. So that's what we're using. Let's go on a walk again. I might say again, I'm sorry for the camera work, but that's something we'll work on in time. This is what we're gonna put on the compressor though. So I have a compressor from before, but I will need to get the water out of the system. Otherwise I'm just gonna fuck up the paint. So basically this takes the water out, and then we have some your standard quick connect fittings like before and after the thing. So that's going to be fine. Now I'm also gonna mention how the interior wood was done. So you see the color is pretty much fantastic. I'm gonna show you what this stuff looks like before you actually put in all of the work making it look nice. So maybe you caught this earlier, but this is a piece of teak. Sorry. So this is about 20 millimeters thick. This is pretty expensive if you're gonna get it yourself, and you also need for it to be exceptionally dry before you work this. That kind of goes along for all woods, but you don't want this to kind of bend around. But it's a plywood piece, so it doesn't live that much from the start of it, but just to be safe, I found this stuff in my garage, and it had been there for about 20 years, like from the start of the 90s or something. So I was very lucky in that sense, and no one else was going to use it, so I just went ahead. So it starts off like that. Then you sand it down, and get as smooth as possible. And then you start using 2-component varnish, like 2-component mahogany diamond varnish that you use on and off. And so you go and do your first layer, and then you sand it down, and you almost sand all of the varnish away. And then you go on and do a second layer, and you sand again, and then you keep going until you've done it about 7 or 8 times, and then you get that mirror finish. Now, if you look really closely, you'll actually see that my hand is reflecting in this. But to get to this result though, you gotta put in a lot of time. So, and I highly recommend you spray this. Because if you use a brush, you're not going to get that mirror finish. There's gonna be remnants of the brush, but there's also gonna be problems where you can see that there was a brush there at some point. And you also need to be in a very specific temperature when you're working with this. You shouldn't do it in the cold. You should do it in about 20 degrees C. I have no clue what that is in Fahrenheit, so sorry for the American viewers, but that's 293 Kelvin, if that helps you out. Put in some fans there just to get a feel for it. And there's some dust there, don't mind that. We're also gonna paint this stuff here. So this is gonna be black. You're not actually going to see this. You're going to see this from underneath though. So if anyone ever crawls under the desks and look at it, I want them to not say that, they didn't work on that part. So, but yeah, just, actually I forgot. Sorry, this is not a very structured video, but this is what Michael helped me out with. This is going to be the PSU mounting. So basically it's a very large piece of metal that holds the PSU down, and then you have mounting points that you just screw it into the chassis. And then there's place for 3 SSDs and 2 hard drives. And then we'll just connect this. This is gonna look pretty neat when it's done. And it's a pretty decent way of getting 3 different components together, so I'm pretty happy with this. But for now, that's it. We're going to start off with, I'm gonna do all the cable work now and get a feel for where the components go and all that. There's going to be some stuff put into that panel with the USB and stuff we talked about earlier, and there will be the key here as previously mentioned. So there's a lot of stuff happening now, and then I'll start working on the finish of this wood, which is very much not the color I'm wanting it to be. But after staining and putting varnish on it, we're going to go closer to what this is. It's not going to be the same though. There's going to be a bit of a contrast, but that's intended. And I actually got water cut this thing here, and all of the fan grills are plasma cut, so we're going to have those for you pretty soon. And I don't think there's more to say now. Next update there will be a lot more. Thank you ICEMODZ, and thank you for watching.